Kamal and Johan are both 30. They both earn 5,000 ringgit a month. They both follow the exact same financial plan for the next 25 years. One of them will retire at 55 with 1.6 million ringgit in his EPF. The other won't come close. And neither of them did anything wrong.
Kamal and Johan are employees in Kuala Lumpur. They earn 5,000 ringgit a month. Sounds manageable until you subtract the mandatory deduction. EPF, SOCSO, EIS, PCB. Their take home is 4,268 ringgit. That's the number they actually live on. Both men support their wives, their children, and their aging parents. Both have mortgage payments. Both are doing everything they were told to do. Work hard, save into EPF, trust the system. And on paper, the system works. Let me show you how. Both Kamal and Johan started working at 20. For the first 5 years, they averaged 2,800 ringgit a month, with a total EPF contribution of 24% compounded at 6% annually. After 5 years, they each had 45,460 ringgit in their EPF. By 30, earning 4,000 ringgit on average, their EPF reached 125,775 ringgit. From 30 to 35 at 5,000 ringgit, it climbed to 249,490 ringgit. Here's where the compounding starts to accelerate. From 35 to 40 at 6,500 ringgit, their EPF hits 435,000 ringgit. By 45, earning 8,000 ringgit on average, it reaches 706,600 ringgit. At 50, with 9,500 ringgit, it crosses a million, 1,093,394 ringgit. And if their salary peaks at 11,000 ringgit from 50 to 55, they retire with 1,634,349 ringgit in their EPF. And to be fair, EPF at 6% annual returns is genuinely one of the best guaranteed return vehicles most Malaysians have access to. The system isn't broken, it's just not designed to be the only system. If they live on just the yearly interest at 6%, that gives them roughly 8,000 ringgit a month. The question nobody asks loud enough is whether 8,000 ringgit a month will still be 8,000 ringgit a month by the time they get there. At just 2% annual inflation, which is conservative, living expenses of 8,000 ringgit today will cost 13,125 ringgit when Kamal and Johan reach 55. Or, flip it around, the 8,000 ringgit they'll have each month in 25 years, that buys what 4,876 ringgit buys today. Okay? They'll retire with less purchasing power than the salary that's already barely keeping them afloat right now. Now, you might be thinking, 4,876 ringgit equivalent isn't great, but it's survivable. And if Kamal and Johan have been disciplined, maybe they have additional saving outside EPF. Maybe their homes are paid off by then. Maybe the plan still works. But that's if everything goes perfectly. For 25 years, and here are the questions nobody wants to ask. First, 4,268 ringgit take home is supposed to cover a mortgage, a wife, children, and aging parents. Right now, how thin is that margin? Second, will they resist withdrawing from their EPF account Sejahtera and account Flexible every time there's a shortfall? Third, the entire plan assumes 25 years of uninterrupted employment. Think about everyone you know who's been retrenched, restructured, or forced into a pay cut. Now ask yourself, what are the realistic odds of anyone surviving 2.5 decades without that happening at least once? And fourth, the salary curve assumes a steady upward climb. In reality, market crashes, industry restructuring, and involuntary resets don't just pause your growth. They often force a permanent pay cut. At 40, Kamal is still at his company, steady, on track. His EPF sits at 435,003 ringgit and growing. But Johan's company restructures. His division is eliminated. He's 40 with a mortgage, 2 school-age children, and parents who need medical attention. The EPF contributions stop, the monthly income stops, and the bills don't. Here's the part we need to be honest about. Johan isn't the unlucky one. Kamal is the lucky one. Surviving 25 years in the Malaysian job market without a single disruption isn't the norm. It's the exception. The moment the crisis hits, the first domino falls. Johan dips into his EPF just to keep the mortgage paid and the lights on. Then the credit card balances creep up. He finds another job after 8 months, but at a 20% pay cut. He's grateful for any income. Personal loans start covering the gap between what he earns and what his family needs. Meanwhile, Kamal contributes every month. His EPF keeps compounding. By 55, Kamal reaches that 1.6 million ringgit target. Johan, the withdrawals, the pause contribution, the pay cut that never recovered. That picture perfect dream of 1.6 million ringgit doesn't just miss the mark. It falls short by 30 to 40%. Here's the undeniable reality. Pausing contribution while pulling money out early inflicts a permanent mathematical penalty. It fractures the compounding effect completely. The snowball that was building momentum for 20 years doesn't just slow down, it partially melts. So instead of 8,000 ringgit a month, Johan is looking at roughly 5,700 ringgit. And here is the real kicker. Because of inflation, that 5,700 ringgit in the future has the spending power of 3,474 ringgit today. If 4,268 ringgit take home is barely keeping his head above water today, how does he manage on the equivalent of 3,474 ringgit when he's 55? When the medical bills are higher, when the body is slower, when there's no next job to apply for. Put yourself in their shoes for a second. Kamal and Johan did everything they were told to do. They worked hard. They contributed to EPF. They followed the plan. Kamal made it because nothing went wrong for 25 years. Johan didn't make it because something did. Same discipline, same values, different luck. Now, here's the part that makes this uncomfortable. Telling people to simply save more is fundamentally flawed advice when the median income for Malaysians is 3,167 ringgit a month. You cannot save what you do not have. That baseline is already entirely consumed by the cost of surviving today. And remember, Kamal and Johan earn 5,000 ringgit. That's already well above the median. If the math is this fragile for them, what does it look like for the majority earning less? Even if Kamal and Johan manage to save 20% of their take-home, which is nearly impossible with their expenses, that's about 850 ringgit a month. 1 month without a paycheck vaporizes 5 months of savings. Spend an entire year building a safety net and it catches them for exactly 2 months. In a market where finding a new job can easily take a year, that kind of math is a ticking time bomb. We've all been handed the same script from our family and the government, save for a rainy day. It's a convenient, easy answer to a deeply complex economic problem. But once you subject that advice to actual mathematics and real market risk, it goes from conventional wisdom to dangerously unreliable. We've established that saving more is a mathematical dead end for most Malaysians. Add a ruthless job market where securing an above average salary is highly improbable. So what is the actual structural solution to this trap? That's not a rhetorical question. I'm genuinely asking, but I'll tell you this much. The answer isn't about saving harder within the same system. It's about building income that doesn't depend on a single salary and a single employer's decision. The specifics of how, that's the conversation I want us to have next. I want to hear your take on this. Are Kamal and Johan's reality closer to the truth than we want to admit? Drop your answer in the comments. And I specifically want to invite the financial advisors and planners watching this to step in and share your perspective. So many Malaysians are trapped in this cycle and this community needs a real unfiltered discussion. Not textbook advice, real answers. Hit that subscribe button right now because my next video is going to take the best solutions from this community and map out the actual way forward, not the script we were all given, the real math, the real path.